Welcome. What does it take to transform self doubt into unshakable confidence, to rewrite the narrative of your words and step into bold, boundary breaking success? Today's guest is a force of transformation who's done exactly that. So please welcome with me Katherine Norland, award-winning actress seen by 65 billion viewers on Darman's global platform, best-selling author of 6 books, and a fearless advocate for owning your God-given words. As a mom of 2 preemie boys, including a child with special needs, Catherine's journey is a masterclass in resilience. She's shattered societal molds, from Hollywood sets to the pages of her faith-based confidence course, Are You Worthy?, proving that perfection is not a prerequisite for purpose. Catherine's story will challenge you to shatter the cracked lens of insecurity and step into your rooms you once thought were off limits. If you've ever felt not enough or played small to fit in, then this conversation is your wake up call. So, ready to claim your space? Let's break boundaries with Katherine Norland right now. Welcome, Katherine. I am super stoked to have you here. How are you doing?
Thank you for having me. I'm doing really wonderful.
You're calling in from southern
Los
US?
Angeles, California.
Okay, beautiful. Yes, of course, you are Hollywood based, or at least very close. I understand that. So, we are here at the Boundary Breakers, where we bring stories of amazing women that create a life that is designed by themselves and not by society's rules. And why do you consider yourself a boundary breaker?
I think breaking boundaries has a lot to do with letting go of the perceived limitations that people put on us. And as children, we're taught when we color in a coloring book to stay within the lines, don't go outside of the lines. That's breaking a boundary. And we're taught very young, do things a certain way, color in the lines, don't go outside of this. This is what's expected of you. And anyone who breaks free from that mold, I think, is a boundary breaker. And it's like that famous quote that says, well-behaved women rarely make history. So part of my breaking boundaries had to do with stepping outside of what someone says is proper for me and just going for it and living a life that I'm not going to regret later because I stayed quiet or I stayed the way people wanted me to be.
Yeah. I think it's the story of our lives. I mean, at least of many, especially women. From basically the day we were born, we were giving very well meant and with good intentions. We were giving the frameworks and the do's and the don'ts and the cans and the cons and everything that basically, like you say, is perception of others put upon us. But the way others sees us very often becomes the way we see ourselves because we want to belong, we want to match expectations, we want to be loved. And it's pretty hard, isn't it, for us in order to find our own way and to go against the rules and regulations, but also the good advices and the opinions and the judgments and just say, you know what? That's okay. Whatever you think, it's your process. Whatever you feel, it's your thing. I want to do something different because it makes you feel alone, right? And it makes you feel a little bit less safe in terms of when you do your own thing and it goes wrong, then who is going to back you up? Who is going to be there for you? Does that sound familiar? Is that something that you have also experienced in your journey of breaking boundaries, Catherine?
Yeah, I think going against people's advice, especially people who love you and are well-meaning, and you're going into this new adventure that everyone says, don't do that. That's going to be risky. That's probably not going to work out. You're safer just staying here. Just the act of me moving to Hollywood to pursue an acting career and writing, my dad was like, you better not move there. That's too risky. Stay here. You've got your stable and steady jobs. You don't want a chance not having work. And ironically enough, after I moved to Hollywood to become an actor, my steady and stable jobs, the one I worked at, the factory shut down, moved somewhere else. The place that I was a waitress, they went out of business. And the place that I worked at, the dry cleaners, it burned down.
Oh
So
gosh.
had I stayed in my steady and stable jobs, they would have all been gone anyway. I can never regret going for the dreams in my heart, even if sometimes when you're going for your dreams, things don't always pan out exactly the way you want it to. For instance, you audition for shows and you don't get it. Go, oh, I wish I would have gotten this or that. But I can never regret taking that leap of faith and moving towards that desire I have. And I think for anyone listening, even if the plan that you have doesn't work out exactly the way you want it to, you can be confident and assured of yourself that you didn't stay where you are because of fear or because of other
Mm.
people's fear. They love you and want to protect you, and they can't fathom doing something this risky. But
Yeah.
when you live by their fear or your fear, you're bound and you're trapped in a prison that when you break free from that prison, even if the life isn't the fairy tale that you think it's going to be, it's still going to be better than staying stuck in fear.
Yeah, absolutely. I so recognize that. And I also see that with women that I work with. And that is that even our closest friends and family, people that really love us, they project their own fears on you and on what you want to achieve. And there's no bad intentions involved. It's just that this is dynamics. This is an energy. They're afraid of losing you. They're afraid of you might change and it will be harder to interact with you. They're afraid that some benefits might go. I think especially spouses, when they have a wife that is really expanding her trajectory professionally or starting an entrepreneurial adventure or whatever, it has an impact on the family. So there's a lot of worries and concerns and fear that people are projecting on you, and that very often hold us back or make at least that we play it small, that we don't go for the full dream, but let's do a little bit, only a little bit, which of course is not really fulfilling and of course is also not really bringing the momentum. But then, Catherine, when you moved to Hollywood, I believe that Hollywood has its own set of rules and do's and don'ts. How was it to arrive there and find yourself again in a situation where there were so many written and unwritten rules? And you want to manifest your dream. You want to become this famous actor. How did that work for you? And what did you see also around you? How did other people deal with that? What made you different there?
Yeah. Geez, I could speak on that for a long time. I just finished writing a book about the over 20 years that I've been pursuing a career in Hollywood, and it's called Smoking Hopium. And I'm toying with a subtitle that's something like Chasing the Dream That Doesn't Chase You Back. Some of the things about Hollywood, which I'm sure is true of any profession, is there's the rules that are said and the rules that are what we call in acting subtext. It's not written anywhere, but it's this underlying thing about what's meant. And that can go power plays, power struggles, auditions. Maybe you've heard of something in Hollywood they call the casting couch. There's sometimes this illusion that if you do this for me, I'll do that for you. And there's been situations where I'd be at an audition and the director or the producer would make certain suggestions that if I do something for them that's not written in the script, if that I
Mm.
would be assured the part and things like this. And there's a lot of navigating who am I and what are my morals and what are my beliefs, and is this fairy tale dream role they're promising me going to be worth compromising when there's all these little exchanges that happen. And that's not every part of Hollywood, but I remember that being the most thing that struck me like, whoa, when I started out, I would be on set just doing extra work, trying to figure out what it's like to be on set. And there would be certain people that are trying to earn SAG vouchers so they can become a member of the Screen Actors Guild. And there would be people who would give out the vouchers that would say, hey, if you go around the back and do this certain thing with me, I'll give you a voucher. And I would see girls go do the things. And so I think,
How do you navigate that?
yeah, you have to know your true north. You have to be aware of who you are and trust and know that the plans for your life, the plans that God has for you, are for good and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. And you have to stay true to, I feel like this is my calling. I feel like this is what I'm supposed to do. And I don't feel that compromise is going to help me. First of all, first and foremost, how are you going to look at yourself in the mirror every day, knowing compromise upon compromise? And then the line in the sand you draw gets further and further out. And next thing you know, you're living a life you don't even recognize. You're doing things for money that you would have never done. So I think losing certain parts or losing certain roles because of things is worth it, being able to sleep at night.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that many of our audience are not Hollywood actors, but they are professionals with ambitions and drive. And there, I believe that we also compromise very often in corporate politics or maybe in government politics or non-for-profit politics, because there's everywhere. I would like to, it's just semantic. I would like to call this, especially unwritten rules, the politics of an organization or the politics of an environment. And this is
Yeah.
something that we all sometimes are, we're overwhelmed with that. And it is absolutely not boosting our self-confidence and our consciousness. On the contrary, it makes us insecure and uncomfortable because we don't really know, sometimes because it is so unwritten, we don't really know if we're right, if we have not misinterpreted, and yet we hold back. We don't push back sometimes, or we don't just go for what we want because we are in this playing field, where I would say mining field sometimes, where we don't really know if we step there what is going to happen, if we do that what is going to happen. There's no clarity and no transparency, because sometimes it's like we speak a different language. And so a lot of women struggle with that, and it results in self-doubt, and it is so important to be able to break free from that. And what you mentioned is this higher self, this North Star. Having that defined based on your beliefs and on your values is so important to do in order to navigate that.
Yeah, in the corporate world, it's the same thing. You have, these are what's expected of you when you see people rising up the ladder and you want that promotion, but they compare you to Susie over there who doesn't have any kids and she's staying late every night. She's working weekends. She doesn't she'll work 12 hours a day, and you want to be at your kid's dance recital, and you want to, so you have that, do I miss this family thing so I can move up? We could really use the money, we could use the raise, and you're having to decide. And at the end of the day, I think looking at the big picture, that that boss, that place you work, you're, they can just get rid of you at any moment. Whereas your family, you don't want them growing up resenting you and saying, my dad never came to a baseball game. My mom never came to one of my dance recitals. You want them, that is the most important relationship we have. And yes, sometimes you have to miss something here or there, but if you're making your boss or your position your God, rather than what you say is important to you, then you're letting people walk all over you. And nobody on their deathbed has ever said, I wish I would have worked more. They always say, I wish I would have spent more time with my family.
Yeah, absolutely. For me, it is also about defining success at your own terms instead of defining success in the way that society does. And also understand that definition can change and evolve depending on the different stages of your lives. We tend to think about our lives, it's either or, and it's like forever, while it is a fluid and organically changing line where we always can look at how can we be in harmony with everything without overdoing ourselves, and especially without doing things or not doing things that are not aligned with our values and with our legacy that we want to leave here. And being in a place of calm and understanding that, and then making choices and decisions that can, again, evolve in the course of the years. Because when you take care of your family, when you have babies, or you take care of your family when you have grown up teens, it's a completely different situation. It's a completely different interaction. And so it is about feeling and understanding what is for you and for your stakeholders in that moment and just acting upon it, right? You have two children, Catherine, so you all also find that harmony or that integration. How does that work for you?
Yeah. And it's the spectrum. You talked about the little ones and the teens. I've got a 17-year-old who's special needs, and then I have a 6-year-old. So it's a wide range of them needing me, of what they need in any given time. And I think what you said about your definition of success, so many times we can get caught up in, I have to make this amount of money, I have to have this car, this house, this trophy wife, this trophy husband, to look to the world like I've made it, like I'm successful. And that can just grind your soul to nothing, and you have nothing left, and defining your success. And I loved what you said about making decisions out of calm, because I'm in a place right now where I used to be on this hamster wheel, just running, trying to do all the things to make me successful and meet all the people and go to all the parties and all the networking things and get the next book written and all these things. And now I'm in a place where I'm not trying to overload my schedule. I'm trying to be more spirit led. And I'm not, yes, there's 600 things I could be doing right now, but just being mindful of checking in with myself, checking in with God, and just praying and asking, what is my next best step? What is my next best move? I don't need to think about 5 years from now. I don't need to think about 10 years from now. I don't need to think about making some certain goal by some arbitrary number. Oh, if you don't make it by the time you're 30, if you don't make it by the time you're 40, forget about it. And there is a lot of ageism in Hollywood, and I imagine a lot of places, like hard to find work if you hit 50 for some people. And but that doesn't mean life is over. And I think we have to not be so hurried and not be so rushed and not think that success has to come by a certain time, some arbitrary number. And if you don't do it by then, forget about it. Your life is over. Life is what you make of it, and your success is determined by you and you alone. And if you feel good, then and your family loves you and you're doing your best and you're doing your calling, it's almost like, who cares what anybody else thinks about you?
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And there's two elements there that I would like to dig a little bit deeper. First of all, it's like you say, we are in this system of studying very hard and then working very hard and have this linear career growth and then do nothing anymore, right? So since we think that after 60 we don't work anymore, we have to achieve our things at 30 and 40 and things like that. And so that means that we are constantly manifesting, that we're constantly in our masculine energy because we're competing, we are achieving, we are setting goals, we are, and like you say, we can do 600 things at the same time, but we don't have to. And for me, a very important way of bringing harmony in life and being present is also to carve out time and to have a mindset of receiving, really the yin and the yang, and having the waiting, the receiving, the observing, the consolidation sometimes, where we don't have to manifest, where we don't have to achieve. And in that balance, you become a different person. And another thing that you mentioned is the aging. I can only imagine in Hollywood, but in general, we feel like once you're 50, it's very difficult to get another job. Once you're 50, you cannot go from executive, from corporate to entrepreneur. Once you're 50, this, when you're, why is
Right.
that? I absolutely don't agree with that. I have passed 50 many years ago, and it's not like I refuse, I don't make a resistance of it, but I say it's not true. whatever you want to believe, you believe. I believe something different. And as long as I can add value, as long as I can be relevant, it might be in a different way than 20 years ago, I will be relevant. Nobody will tell me when to stop to be relevant. Nobody will tell me when to stop to write books or articles or to coach or to mentor other people or to do whatever. And that is basically because we are lived, right? We are focused on what the system says. And that might have been a reality like in the Industrial Revolution where people were doing physical labor all day and they were just physically not no longer able to do it. But we are now in a knowledge society. We are delivering services, we are delivering intellectual work. You can do that as long as your brain is functioning, right? That's
Yeah.
how I look at it. And I can only
Yeah.
imagine, like in Hollywood, that it's even, I would say, worse, if I can use that word. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you
Yeah. Even
experience that?
for people who aren't in front of the camera. I was working with a writer a few years ago, and he was the creator of a very popular show in the 90s, but he wasn't getting writing work because of his age. So he asked me, this was like a decade ago, he asked me if I would be his front person, his co-writer. He would do most of the writing, but he wanted me to be the young and pretty girl who would take the meetings, who would go to the interviews, because he was already experiencing ageism. And I've heard this from several writers as well, that even if you're not the one in front of the camera, it's something you experience. But I imagine every industry has some sort of a glass ceiling that needs to be broken through. And really, only you can determine, like you said, in this era, your knowledge is really what gets you in the door. And who cares if you have a couple lines on your face? There's still good work to be done and good work to put out into the world. And I think if you can, like you said, stay relevant, you keep reinventing yourself. We see all these famous singers and they're doing different genres. They're reinventing their look, they're reinventing their sound. Maybe they can't hit the high notes anymore and they change up their music to fit where they are now. So, what is if you were a ballerina and after 35, you're not a ballerina anymore? How can you reinvent yourself to continue doing what you love, to share your knowledge? You can choreograph ballet for the movies, you can teach dance, you can write books on the technique, you can put together videos, you can put together courses. There's so much you can do with that knowledge. And I think what people are finding now is that teaching the thing or coaching people about the thing rather than doing the thing is actually more flexible and even more lucrative than when you could actually do it. And no
Yeah,
one can put a limit on you. You're putting that limit on yourself. Just because someone says no to you doesn't mean that's the end for you. It's just not that person that you're supposed to work with.
absolutely. What are other limits or other myths about success and about how we should live our lives that keep us stuck as women? What do you experience yourself? What do you see around you?
Yeah, I think our weight has to do with it as well, how we perceive ourselves. Oh, when you start to get close to going through menopause or something, and your waist starts to get a little thicker, or different stuff like that. But it's not all just the outward stuff, mindset too. We start to sometimes question our own worth and our own value. And what do I have to contribute? I was talking to a friend the other day, and she said, it felt like this overnight thing. She said, I don't know how it happened, but one day people were referring to me as, look at that hot blonde. And the next, she said, it was like the next day they were like, look at that old lady. And she said there was no like she didn't even feel the shift. She said, how did I go overnight from that hot blonde to that old lady? And I think knowing your value within yourself, what you have to offer, knowing your worth, you are worthy, knowing your worth will keep you from letting other people define who you are. And we have to be the one to say, no, I'm not that old lady. I am this accomplished person. I am this brilliant writer. I am a wonderful friend. I give great advice. Getting clear with who you are, regardless of what the outer shell looks like.
Yeah. Absolutely. I love that. My son is going to be a father in June. And so I'm going to become a grandmother. And so
Wow.
I was saying something about that on Facebook. And of course, I got a lot of congratulations. This is such an amazing event. And some people almost literally said, "You're going to be a grandma equals old." And I
Yep.
say, you know what? That's your idea. This is something
I'm gonna be
that is from the
feeling.
past. I understand that like 100 years ago, or maybe even 50 years ago, that was something that people perceived that way. But if you look now at people who are 60 or 55, 60, 65, they're not old. I would say they're
Yeah.
mature. They have a lot of wisdom, but they can do whatever. They can do whatever they want as long as there are no physical or mental limits, of course. Health is a very important factor there. But it's so amazing how we still have these societal projections that certain things equal other things. And that's like, I said, I had some personally, I was like, really, what is going on here? I'm very happy with that situation. And I don't feel old because of that. That's like your view that you are again projecting on me and putting that very clear and transparent and publicly. And that is something we can work ourselves on being aware of that and not doing that ourselves and
Yeah.
asking ourselves every time that we use this routine sayings or have these routine ideas, is that really true, or is that still true? Is this serving us? And if not, just get rid of it and look at what is a mindset, what is a way of talking to yourself and talking to other people that serves us, that uplifts us, and that is focusing us on what we can achieve and what we can be for each other, rather than defining us with old labels. We love to label,
Right.
right?
No, and I talk to my coaching clients about this a lot. They'll have these limitations, and it's ones that other people have put on them. Like you said,
Yeah.
oh, you're old, if this is it. And I say, and they're fighting for their limitations. They're like, but you don't understand. It's true, and this and that. And I said, whether it's true or not, if it's not serving you, you have to let it go. If that label, whether it's true or not, is stopping you from going for that thing, for writing that book, for taking that chance, for starting your business, then you have to throw it out, whether it's true or not, because anything that stops you from your passions and your calling, you've got to get rid of it. It's your responsibility to not let a label or something that somebody has told you to stop you from the powerful, passionate life that you could be living. And so even if they're right, so even if you step out and you try that thing and you fail, you did it on your terms. You may feel a little, oh, I failed. They were right. But there's this confidence that grows inside you, and you start to go, you know what? Yes, I failed, but now I can see it's because I didn't do this and this. And now if I try again, I have more confidence that I know what to do this time around. And it's like it grows this confidence muscle inside you where you're like, even though it didn't work out, I'm really glad I did it. And I didn't just stay stuck in fear of this prison of what other people thought of me.
Absolutely. You're building experience, right? Yeah. Catherine, you have written 6 books. Which
Mhm.
book is like the most relevant for our audience here in the context or setting of boundary
Mhm.
breaking?
Yeah, I would say it's the You Are Worthy book. It's about
Mm,
stopping building other people's dreams and sabotaging your own so you can step into your calling and live your purpose with confidence. And it's knowing who you are, knowing your identity, knowing your worth, and how it's not tied to these outward things that we were talking about, our age, our looks, our weight. It's really this inward thing that we have this intrinsic value that's been given to us since birth, that nothing can stop us unless we allow that to stop us in our minds. So knowing who you are is the number one thing, knowing your worth and that anything is possible for you, I think is for anybody, any walk of life. We could be doing more. We could be taking more chances. We could be launching ourselves forward instead of sitting back in trepidation. And I think it starts with knowing you are worthy.
yeah, absolutely. I think this is a Very beautiful closure also for our conversation, Catherine. We are worthy. And as women, we can also respect and sponsor other women and uplift each other, seeing each other's worth. I think it is very important because, as we already said, we have this tension to perceive ourselves the way that others see us. So it's a good idea also to surround yourself with other people that respect you and that see you for who you are and that appreciate whatever you're trying, your experiments, your explorations, your dreams, your ambitions, and that have your back in that area. So thank you so much for being here with us, for sharing your stories, for bringing a little bit of Hollywood into our lives, and wishing you good luck with everything that you do. You do amazing work. You make so many people happy in so many different ways. You have written 6 books. You also have some tools and resources available. You said also that you wanted to offer a freebie. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. Sure. I have an online course called You Are Worthy, and it's a more expanded version of what's in the book, You Are Worthy. And I wanted to give away a few videos from that online training to help boost your audience in knowing their value and their worth. So you can get that by going to freegiftfromcoachkat.com. And that's cat with a K, freegiftfromcoachkat.com. And they can download those videos and get that extra boost of confidence.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much for your generosity. We will make sure that this link, together with the other links where you can see Catherine in action or where you can connect with Catherine, there will be in the show notes. So just check there if you want to go deeper. And thank you so much for your generosity, Catherine. It's amazing.
Thank you. Pleasure being here.